starting? Is that how you're starting? And they're like, how many drinks y'all had before you started?
Happy hump day
Happy hump day, dear Kalina.
I think we're cute.
We're so cute. At least we think we are.
Okay. Welcome, listeners. What are we calling our listeners?
I don't know. Psychics? Do you all feel like you're psychics?
Intuitives?
I feel like you're intuitives. I like that.
Welcome, fellow intuitives, drinking intuitives. How about drinkers?
Mother effers? I don't know. My man voice.
Okay. I like your man voice. Okay. What are we calling our listeners?
We need to have a good
question.
name for them. M&M's, media mixology. I don't know. Mixologists? Because they're mixing
That
it
sounds
up.
like they're scientists.
It totally does.
Okay,
Good,
if you have an
clever name.
idea of what we're calling our listeners, that's like a podcast thing, right? Like
Okay.
all podcasts call their listeners something. So
Something.
what do you want to be, I guess?
What do you go by? What do you identify as?
Yeah.
Please tell
I think
us.
M&M's are good. Medium
M&Ms.
mixologists. M&Ms.
Yeah.
Intuitive M&Ms.
What's up? Like them peanut M&Ms?
Penis M&Ms.
There's some word to that. Cheers.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Are we starting now? What's the deal?
We already started. It's
Did we start again?
hump day.
Happy hump day, girl. I am Casey Carlson.
I am Kalina Converse.
And this is Medium Mixology.
So today we have a special autumn vibes drink. And if you're tuning in on YouTube, maybe Apple Music, maybe Spotify, I encourage you to go to YouTube and check out our setup here. We have pumpkins.
I'm being the Vanna White. I'm displaying the pumpkins.
Yeah, we have pumpkins and happy haunting and all
She's so
sorts of fun
cute.
stuff. But more than that, we have an amazing drink. Casey, you want to explain the drink?
So good. You guys, this is our autumn Aperol Spritzer. It's got 2 ounces of Aperol and 2 ounces apple cider and a little splash of Prosecco. We did these 2 little cinnamon sticks just to be cutesy. And it is by far our favorite. Kalina is sucking on the sticks.
Okay.
It's so good. It tastes amazing. We're going to
It's
do...
actually our best drink we've ever made. And I would not say Casey and I are bartenders at all.
We don't know anything about booze, by the way.
Actually, not at all. And
No.
we are learning how much we don't know by having a show called Media Mixology where we're supposed to have drinks and neither one of us really drink them.
Right? If you would watch our reel on Instagram, you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
We don't even know how to open a bottle of Prosecco. So
No.
it's fine. We destroy every wine bottle. And that's part of the fun is that we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, a fun little side note, Kalina and I just learned today that Aperol is orange and they might trick you to make it seem like it's like an orange flavor with an orange slice, but it's just the color of the Aperol.
Yeah, because we were legit at the store trying to buy the ingredients for this fun autumn drink for all of our listeners to partake with us. And we looked all over the aisle for any Aperol Spritz that's not orange. And then finally I Googled it and found that Aperol Spritz is indeed permanently orange.
Yeah, that's just how it
There's
comes.
not a clear one, so don't look.
Did you guys know that?
They're like, you guys are stupid.
We're kind of
but
special.
I
with this.
only drink with you. Okay,
Yes.
that's not true. Like,
So- she's like, well, let me be honest. But we will say, because we have the name mixology in our title, our description, you might think that we're big drinkers, but truly we're not, which is why we didn't know about the
we're
Aperol.
moms. So 6 days of the week we're momming, and the
Yes.
other one day we're trying beverages that we have never put together. So
Just
this
for
one's
fun.
a win.
It's so good. You guys try it out.
I could eat like 9.
Drink. She's going to eat it and drink it, y'all. It's fine.
Cinnamon stick. I'm gonna suck on.
She's going to eat that stick
Okay,
and
let's
suck
do
on
our
it. Okay. I was going there with you. Sip and see.
Spirits and mediums,
Wild and free. Cheers. Okay. Whatever you guys have, we're going to cheers. We're going to have a good time.
I just drank half of my glass.
That was actually super impressive.
That
Kalina
was
shot that
so
drink
good.
like
Oh my gosh.
Threw it back like a
in the
shot.
day in high school, I could chug a beer bong in 2 seconds flat.
What?
Yeah, Lee timed it. I had like the winning
Oh my word.
back in college.
That was your party days, huh?
It was my college days.
I love it. Well, she just showed it for us right now.
Open the throat, let it flow.
She opened that throat chakra right on up.
It's a gift.
It's a
Mini
gift.
guys.
It's one of her many gifts.
It's fine. Okay.
So here we go. You guys, we're going to what are we doing? Chills of the week.
Oh, yes. love
Yeah, I like it. Okay, what do you got this week?
it. I have a couple.
Okay. Tell me.
Okay. So I'm going to start with a friend called me. So a friend of a friend had someone that passed. She was explaining to me how she passed. I'm going to respect her privacy, but she was kind of explaining to me the situation. She was kind of on my heart and my mind. So we're going to call my friend Thelma and her friend Louise. So Thelma and Louise.
Love that.
And Louise was on my heart and mind because my friend had just talked about her, and she wanted me to tap into her, and I was like, okay, that's fair. And so I was tapping into her, trying to give her some comfort, some peace. And then I went to the store. And while I was at the store, I was going down the office supply aisle and I was picking out some paper and stuff. And I'm on one side of the aisle, and on the same side of the aisle, but on the opposite end where nobody is, all of the binders fly off and land on the ground.
Oh, my word.
I knew instantly because I was thinking of Louise.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to give Thelma a message about Louise. Like, I was kind of rushed. So it was kind of unfinished business, like the way we ended it, because I was on my way to the store and I was doing things and I was like, let's touch base. And so it was kind of unfinished business. So I was on one side of the aisle. All the notebooks fly off the other side of the aisle. And I look over, not shocked. And I'm like, oh, freak. So I go over, I bend over, I'm picking up all of the binders because I can't just leave them there. So there's like 7 binders on the...
Yeah, Spirit made you a big old mess.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I'm picking up the binders, I'm putting them back. But as I'm doing it, I'm talking to Spirit and I'm a little bit aggravated. So I'm like, okay, I know you're here. I see you. I feel you, Spirit. Like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to call Thelma back. I'm going to give her your message. I just need a minute to pick up the stuff I need. Like, not in those words, but I was frustrated.
Yeah.
I put all the binders back. I go to turn around, and there, with a gaping mouth and huge eyes, is a mother and her child.
Oh, for the love. Of course.
I stopped dead in my tracks, and my eyes got so big, and I was like, oh shit.
No.
Because they just heard that whole thing. Like, I'm sitting there essentially talking to myself. I'm talking to the spirit, but I'm aggravated. I'm talking about a spirit, right?
As anybody would do in the office supply aisle. I mean, I get it.
She takes her child, turns her around before I can say anything. She looks at me literally like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Turns around and hurries her child away. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's great.
Because she's like, that woman is on something.
I was like,
some good kind of drugs.
Great. This is fun. So happy. That's amazing.
Thanks a lot, Spirit.
Yeah,
Ruined my trip to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's my trips to the grocery store, guys.
That's so funny. Listen, you can't even grocery shop alone. It's like,
I can't take bath alone.
But
at least, like, let's give credit that this one wasn't naked in the bathtub. I was fully dressed this time in the store.
She was dressed in public. I mean, that's a first. Right?
Both, yes.
That's a good one. I love that so much.
Okay, so what about you, Case? What's your chills of the week?
So mine this week, my husband was out of town and I was getting ready to go to bed. It was super late. All my kids were asleep except for my 17-year-old, my second. And I started hearing Casey. And that's what happens when someone's starting to come through. And I'm like, okay, here we go. But I was tired. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't really want to tap in and connect with that. So I went into my daughter's room and she was getting ready. She was in her bathroom, actually. I go in there and I was like, hey, Peyton, can you come sleep in my room tonight? And she immediately knew. She's like, why? Who are you talking to?
That's amazing.
Like, yeah. And I was like, no. Like, it's nothing. I'm
tried to play it off.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, we're good. I wasn't talking to anybody. And because she is intuitive and her clear empathy is so strong, she immediately felt what I was feeling. And she was like, no, Mom, like, who? Just, what, are you talking to someone? And I was like, no, it's nobody. She's like, okay, fine. If I come in your room, you're not talking to anybody. I'm like, okay, I won't. It's good. We're fine. So she knew I was lying. So she comes in, she lays in my bed and we go to lay down.
And you like her in there because she like blocked.
Yes, totally. So she and my husband, because they kind of like deny their, I don't know if it would say like intuitiveness, their gifts, they kind of block it and they almost send, they shut it out. They send the spirits away. So I wanted her in there because she does have the ability to do that. And I just didn't want to.
They have more grounding energy. So if you're living in the higher chakras and she's living in the lower, it kind of balances you out a little and brings you back.
100%. Yeah. And she is very similar to my husband, just with personality.
Yeah.
And he's very, very grounding for me. And so that's kind of why I had her come into the bed. And anyways, she's laying down And to respect her friend's privacy, we'll call her Sarah. I'm laying down and all of a sudden I was like, hey, and I don't know much about her friend Sarah. Like she's come over. I know her name. That's, I don't know a lot about really anything with her family. And so I said, hey, does Sarah have a grandma that has passed within like the past couple of years? And she was like, Mom, you told me you weren't going to talk to anyone. I was like, okay, I can't help
She's
it.
Like, that took 5 seconds.
Yeah. She's like, liar. And so I said, okay,
it's
but
like a little kid playing the quiet game.
Totally. Yes. She's like, you just lost, which by the way, I lost that game every time someone played the quiet game.
Oh yeah, me too.
Right. You did too.
Me too.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm out.
I don't want to talk about it.
No.
PTSD from the quiet game.
Right. 1 second in, I was like, I'm done.
I have
Game's
other
over.
gifts.
Yeah. And so I said, hey, does Sarah have 6? Are there 6 kids in Sarah's family? And Peyton was like, okay, fine. Let me see. Let me count them. Yes, including Sarah, there's 6. I'm like, okay. And Sarah's mom has a sister that lives in Utah, and she's close to that sister in Utah, but there's something with like the mother-in-law, with her mother-in-law. What's going on there? And Peyton shut that down. She's like, I'm leaving. You promised me you wouldn't talk to anyone. I was like, poor Peyton. I'm like,
no.
I know. I was like, babe, is that hard with me being your mother that I talk to everyone? She's like, yes, because you talk to everybody, like all the humans at the grocery store, you make friends, you talk to whoever, and then you talk to spirits at night. Like it just, there's no quiet.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
no
Yeah,
privacy.
it's legit the same at my house.
Yeah. And she's the one that needs peace and quiet sometimes because she really feels the energy in the room. And so she gets overwhelmed. And so because I'm constantly talking, she's like, oh, for the love. Okay. Just for a minute.
That's
Don't talk to a
amazing.
human or a spirit.
Okay, so it's so funny because my kids, I was homeschooling them this week and they're all sitting around the table and they're doing their work. And Brinley is sitting off to the side because she just got home from cosmetology school and she's sitting there and she's listening to our lesson. And everybody's quiet for a minute. She interrupts and she goes, Mom, what if I like fall in love with somebody? She's 17. So she's like, what if I fall in love with somebody? But then it's a spirit and I didn't realize they were a ghost the whole time.
Oh,
because she's so intuitive. And she's like, what if I fall in love with spirit? And Dagan, without missing a beat, he's 12. He goes, well, that won't happen because you're never getting a boyfriend on this side or the other.
Oh my gosh. You gotta love little brothers. Really.
And I was like, the fact that we're having this conversation and he's like, it doesn't even faze them that it's like on this side or the other. It's not
side.
happening for you.
It's just a typical Tuesday at your house.
And
It's fine.
I was like, wait, what? I was like, it's okay, honey.
Oh, that's amazing. You're like, baby, I'm going to make sure it's not a spirit. If you wonder, I will let you know. It's a real person.
What if I fall? And I think it's because that new Beetlejuice movie is out. Have you seen it?
Yes, my kids have all watched
and she
it.
like falls in not spoiler alert, but yeah. So I feel like she was like, wait a minute, what if that happens to me? Because she is intuitive. She's like, what if I don't realize that he's not on this realm? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you would know.
And isn't that kind of also like the movie way back in the day? Was it Ghost, like Casper the Friendly Ghost, or was it just called Ghost? I can't remember.
No, it was Casper.
Casper, that's it, Casper.
And her name was Kat. And after that, I went in high school by Kat. Everybody called me Kat in high school.
Oh, that's so cute.
Because Kalina's such a hard name that everybody called me Kat throughout my whole high school.
I love that.
I know.
That's so cute. I want to call you Kat. I want to call you Kitty Cat.
Wait, that's off
Naughty
Wedding
Kitty.
Crashers.
Oh, is it?
That is like my favorite movie.
Oh my
ever.
gosh, that's funny. I haven't seen that. I've seen little tiny blips, but I've never seen it beginning to end.
Oh my god, legit my favorite movie.
Really? Okay, we have to watch it.
So today, let's get started. We're talking about claircognizance.
Yes.
And that's crown chakra energy.
It's clear knowing.
Yeah.
So knowing something without any proof or evidence, you just know it. You almost get like a download. It's just something you know and you can't explain it.
Yeah, I feel like a download, you hit the nail on the head with that. Like, it's just a download. Like, sometimes I like to call it a hit and run. Like, if you get a hit of something and then you're like, oh, I got something. And then it runs away and you can't really follow it up. I call that a hit and run.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're like, call my brother. And you're like, wait, what? And you call my brother? Why? And then it's like gone. You're like, what? What? That's like a hit and run.
Yes. And you're like, what? Am I supposed to listen to that? What is that? Yeah.
And I think that's the major problem with claircognizant is a lot of people don't know if it's their own mind playing tricks on them, if the knowing is legitimate, if it is just in their own head, in their own thoughts. So how would you say, Case, to differentiate between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like just our everyday thoughts are kind of more robotic, right? It's like, hey, here's my schedule. Here's what I need to do today, what I need to get done. Also, like safety. I'm driving on the road. Here's the rules of the road. It's very methodical in a way. And then claircognizance would be something from the spiritual realm. It comes out of nowhere to where maybe it's something or someone you weren't even thinking of, and they pop in your head and you just have a knowing, this thought. And you're like, where did I get that?
Yeah. So I'll use Brinley, the same daughter I just talked about, my 17-year-old. She goes to cosmetology school. She was sitting in school doing someone's hair. And she's sitting there doing their hair. And all of a sudden she looks up the fire alarm and she says to herself, that's going to go off. That's claircognizance. It was just knowing. She's like, that's going to go off. She said to herself, when, today? And she thought, no, it won't be today. It'll be in the next day or two. The next day, she drives to school. And as she's driving to school, she goes into the parking lot. There are tons of fire departments. And somebody had lit a fire in the building and they shut down the school for the day. And so she couldn't go in. But she intuitively knew that fire alarm was going to go off. And it was just a download, just a hit. Like she didn't know when, she didn't know how, she didn't know where, she just knew. A just knowingness.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I think they say in psychology, our thoughts are repetitive. So they loop. They're 90% the same every single day. So if you're getting a random thought that feels foreign to you, that's your message to tune in. Like, wait, where did that come from? And why am I thinking that? And I think it's really hard to trust that because fear plays a tricky role in that.
Yeah. And the self-doubt. Like you second guess yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that came out of nowhere. No, that was nothing. And you don't listen to it. Then later something happens because of that thought. And you're like, dang it. I knew that. Like I
people experience that a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're like, dang, I totally knew.
Yes. It's like hindsight's 2020. It's like, dang, I tapped into that, but for some reason I didn't listen.
I had a friend synonymous with the student, YTT student, and she felt and heard and just knew. She was like, oh, my friend, I need to call her. She just thought of it, right? It was just a download, just a knowingness. Yeah. And she didn't listen. She didn't call her. And the next week she died. And she wasn't sick or anything. It was a tragic death. And she really beat herself up. And she came to me and she's like, Kalina, I had a download that I should call her and I didn't listen. I'm so upset with myself for not listening because I thought it, but I didn't follow through because I just thought, well, yeah, I'll get to it. And so I guess this is your message. If you have a knowingness, don't ignore it. Even if you think it's your mind playing tricks on you, don't ignore it.
Yeah.
But fear is really important to talk about here because I get asked the question a lot. How do I know if it's intuition, if it's a download, or if it is fear? And what I will say is that knowingness comes with very little emotion attached, and fear comes with emotion. So I was doing my dishes. This happened probably 2 years ago, maybe. I was doing my dishes. I was unloading the dishwasher and I got this download. One of my students, I'm going to call her Karen. One of my students, Karen, was going to get in a car accident. I just knew it. It just came down. Then I used my other clairs to kind of figure out why I would think that, right? So I was like, wait, show me. And it all happens at once. Like after the knowingness, I'm like, wait, what? And then I see it. I see the car turning in front of her. I hear the crash. I feel her. But the knowingness came first. Like the download came first. And then I lean in and the other clairs opened up to me. And I sat with it for a while and I was like, do I tell her? Do I not tell her? Do I tell her? Do I not tell her? And there was no emotion attached to it. It was almost like I was seeing somebody get in an accident that I didn't know. It was almost like playing on a movie theater screen. You're just like, oh, that's happening. But if I would have seen that and felt it, that would have been fear. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that I knew that it wasn't true. Yep. And in this particular instant, she is very intuitive. So I told her, I ended up calling her and telling her. And she was like, okay, I'll be really careful. And 3 days later, she was still in an accident. And what that tells me is, even if I can see the future, I can't stop it from happening. So that was a really hard lesson because it was the first time I had ever spoke it out loud and tried to warn her. But it doesn't matter if I have the knowingness or not. You can't prevent the future.
Yeah. That's a great story. That's a great example.
That was a hard lesson.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because you wanted to try and protect her and help her. but either way, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It just
And
was part of her.
She was
plan.
okay. She was kind of beat up, but she
Yeah.
was okay. And she
survived.
appreciated the thought, and she appreciated the warning, and she was okay in the end. But now I don't deliver bad news because it's not going to help anyway.
Yeah. That reminded me. So when I was a teenager, my grandma was getting ready to have surgery, and she was having heart surgery, and I had a feeling that I should call her. And it was like, hey, you should call. And I was about, I don't know, almost 18. And it was like, hey, you should call grandma. And I was like, no, it's no big deal. She's going to have the surgery. She played it off to be no big deal. We're fine. And then my mom even said, hey, after I had that thought, she's like, Case, you should call grandma. She's going to go in this morning before you leave for school. Give her a call. Just talk to her. I was like, but she's going to be fine, Mom. It's no big deal. And she's like, no, I know, but just give her a call. My mom's also very intuitive. And so I called my grandma because I felt it. My mom felt it. And I called her and just, hey, grandma, well, want to wish you good luck, saying prayers, good thoughts, healing for you. And you're going to do great. And she's like, thank you, sweet girl. And that was the last time I spoke to her because of things that went wrong in the surgery. And she passed, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 days after because of the trauma of the surgery. And so I didn't get to say anything else to her. She was there and aware afterwards. And so I could come into the hospital and I could sing to her and I could talk to her and she'd communicate with her eyes, her beautiful eyes, but she couldn't talk. And so that was our last time to be able to talk. And so I was really grateful that I listened to that. And then also my mom also helped encourage me because she felt it too. She knew.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. And it's almost like, in a way, I guess I kind of thought like I didn't want to talk to her because I felt in a way that it was giving that energy that in case something were to go wrong, well, why do I need to call her? She's going to be fine. It's no big deal. You're putting too much stress or energy over this, right? And I kind of downplayed it. And then, looking back, I'm just grateful that that feeling came in, that knowing. It's like, hey, I need to call her. There's a reason.
Yeah.
So I think it's that same thing. You had that knowing, you could see your student was going to get an accident. You called her, let her know, here's what I saw.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because even in high school, I remember riding my bike to my friend's house and I remember feeling or like knowing like it's like a download, like switch lanes. Like you're going one side, you need to like ride your bike on the other side. Yes. And you doubt yourself and you're like, no, this side is fine. And it's like I felt it, I heard it, I knew it again. It's like a download, like switch sides, like you just know. And the second I switched sides, a car turned around the corner, they would have hit me so hardcore. And I stopped because I was like, oh, holy shit, I almost just died. And that car had no idea that I would have been there 2 seconds earlier.
Oh my God.
And it's crazy that even in high school, like I knew to listen, but I didn't know what it was. And I think that's a lot of people. Like I think a lot of listeners, a lot of people get those intuitive downloads or those intuitive knowings. They can be visions or voices or just different things that they just know. But they don't know how they know. They just know. And they don't listen.
Yeah. And then you kind of learn your lesson the hard way sometimes, unfortunately, that it's like, oh, dang, I should have listened to that. Really tap into your intuition, your claircognizance. If something comes up and it's just out of nowhere, that's when I think you really should tap in. It's like, why am I getting this? It's completely coming out of left field.
Yeah. I also think that in order to develop it, you have to trust yourself a lot. Because if you don't trust yourself, then it's like trusting your own intuition. And it's one of those things that like, if this thought is random, then why am I thinking it? Like Brindley and the fire alarm, like that's not a common thought. So why is her attention pulled to it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I feel like women especially, I'm not discrediting men definitely have this ability as well, but I feel like women, for some reason, I don't know if it comes from that womb, that divine feminine energy, but we have like an extra layer here, I feel like, with that knowing. You know how they say like the feminine intuition, like we just have an extra sense of knowing.
Yeah.
And I had that with my son, my 5th child. I had a doula and I was going to do all of it natural. I was like, I'm determined to do it natural. I know that I have large babies and I have really, really long labors, but I'm going to do this natural. And so I did. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I want to say like maybe 18, 19 hours in, and they were giving me Pitocin, which Pitocin forces the contractions and it's so intense and it forces,
I've had it.
Yeah, it's awful. And so they were cranking it oh gosh, like every minute and a half, 2 minutes. And I had been doing this for all night long. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep powering through. And my doula's like, yeah, you've got this. And then all of a sudden, again, I had like this download, this feeling that it's like, no, there's something wrong. You need to get the epidural. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm doing this. Like, I don't care. And then I felt it, and I felt this horrible pain, and I felt I couldn't put into words what it was, but I felt something separating in my body, some awful, awful pain. And I was like, no, this is different than my other 4 babies. I need the epidural. And my doula, because that is why she was there to help me encouraged me to do it natural. She was like, no, are you sure, Case? And so I said our code word, and finally she listened, and she went and got me the epidural. I got the epidural, and within minutes, I went from like a 7 to a 10. And it turns out because I was in such horrific pain because my pubic bone was separating, I wasn't able to relax enough for it to dilate fully for the baby to come through.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my pubic bone was separating because he was so big. He was almost 11 pounds, 24 inches long. He was massive. So I delivered him naturally. And when I delivered him, I also ripped my cervix. And so the doctor's like, it is so good you did the epidural because I'm having to stitch you in 2 different places, you know? And he's like, I got to repair the cervix. Yeah.
But also like
bad.
How intuitive for you to be in such a stage of like distress, and for you to hear and feel and know, and just that download, for you to be able to receive it in such a crazy place.
Yeah. And I think that if it would have happened in like my 20s, even my maybe early 30s, because this was in my late 30s, that I might not have listened, but it was like, I don't know, I kind of stepped more into that power.
Times,
yeah, exactly.
I would say I did similar things throughout my birth.
Yeah. Yeah. To where you're like, no, I know this and I'm feeling it and it's a knowing and I'm going to go with it. Yeah. So don't doubt yourself.
It's interesting when you're talking, I just remembered a couple things. One, I was with a friend up in Sedona, and it was just me and her that night. And we were having a great time. We were drinking. We were having so much fun. And we were at a little wine bar, and there were a whole bunch of regulars. It was on a weeknight. It was no big deal. And everywhere closes super early in Sedona.
Yeah, it's so funny that they do that.
They're like a daytown. So like everything closes at like 6.
Yeah.
We were starving. And it was like midnight and nothing is open. And this guy who's from Australia was there, and he had like a house, and he was like, hey, I've been staying here for a couple of weeks. Come back with us. We have food at the house. Yeah. And me and my friend were like, okay. So we went back to his place. We got out of my car. We started walking up to his condo, to his place. And I quite literally got this download that said like, stop. It was this, I felt my spirit guides like pull me. You know how like if you're driving, you slam on your brakes and you put your hand across somebody's chest to like stop them in the passenger seat.
That passenger brake.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. I like felt. And my friend looked at me and she was like, hey, what's going on? And she was like totally like chill. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like, it took me a second. Like, and I just got this download. Don't go inside. Don't go inside. And I was like, we got to go. And I'm going to call her Molly. And I was like, Molly, we got to go. And she's like, what? And I was like, we got to go, Molly. Like, we have to go now. And she was like, we just got here. They have food inside.
Yeah,
like,
we're hungry.
Like, it was a whole group. Like, it's a whole vibe. And she's like, no, let's go inside. And I was like, no, we have to go. And so we tell the guy, hey, the guy from Australia, we're going to go. We aren't going to hang. And he was like, somebody flipped a switch. He got so angry. So angry. He started yelling at us. He got like up in our face. He was so angry. He was like screaming at us, and he was like, what the fuck? Like, it was the crazy. And I was like, Molly, get in the car. Like, we gotta go.
Yeah, there was your sign. And so we took off.
But it's crazy, like the downloads. I say I trust my spirit guides like to the umpteenth degree.
Yeah.
Another example, I was in Scottsdale with some friends, and we were going to go hang out. And all night long, I had this uneasy feeling. And I was like, what is this feeling? What is this feeling? And then I got that claircognizant, that simple knowing, don't drink. Don't drink. And I was like, oh, I can't even have like 1 or 2 beers. And I just kept feeling, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. And I was like, okay, won't drink. Like when they talk, I listen.
Yeah.
And on the way home, 4 cops followed me.
Oh my God.
4 cops followed me. And I knew if I drank even 1 or 2 beers, they would have pulled me over.
Yeah.
And so I was like, don't drink.
Wow. I love that you listened to him though. And honestly, going back to that guy too, like who knows what would have happened, for him to go from 0 to 10 like that.
Well, he was vibing
there was
with my friend a
obviously
lot, but
something.
I think she was not ready for anything. We just wanted to be friendly, like
Yeah.
friends hanging out. Like I got such a download of leave now that I was like, we got to go. And she was like, wait, what? Like, it was so abrupt.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. And that's how it comes. It's abrupt and it's out of nowhere. And you have a choice. You can either follow it or you cannot. And generally, I've learned when to follow it. I can hear them loud enough now that I'm like, nope, I've got to go. I've got to listen.
We've had too many experiences, I would feel like, to
Ignore it.
Exactly. Yeah. To where it's like, no, I know that when this comes through, I'm going to listen because I've seen what happens when I don't. And then I'm like, dang it, I wish I would have listened to that, versus when I have and the outcome has been good. And it's like, okay, I'm going to trust that claircognizance.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody's going to build their claircognizance, if somebody's like, I'm not sure, in the movie theater example, this is the one where you know what's going to happen at the end. Like you're really good at guessing what's going to happen, and you probably irritate your friends or your partner by always saying what's going to happen at the end. And they're like, why did you spoil it? Because you're always right.
Yeah. Yep, totally. I've had that too, where they're like, I can't even watch a movie with you. It's so obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's like, I just knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do we hone it?
Yeah, I think some other ways you can, it's like what Kalina was saying, inviting your spirit guides. So kind of knowing who those are. For everyone, it could be different. I feel like for me personally, most of mine are ancestors. My brother, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, it could be great grandparents. I feel like what's really powerful and super cool too, especially for me lately, I've been tapping into that ancestral line, like going down way back, like great grandma. What was her story and why am I feeling her? So a good example, my mom and dad were over and I started getting a name. And I don't know all of my mom's great grandmas, like we don't really talk about it. I got the name right. And my mom's like, yeah, I think that was my mom's grandma. So it'd be my great grandma, it'd be your great grandma, right? So she looked it up. She said, yeah, that's her. And I was like, okay, she had red hair. Like she just showed me a strawberry and then it had hair. And so for me, that was redhead. I'm like, that must be where I got my red hair from because I'm the only one out of 65 first cousins and all my aunts and uncles. Yeah. So I was like, I think it was her. And then I kept hearing the word hard. And I'm like, I feel like she was either a hard person or had like a really hard life. And my mom's like, well, let me read more about it. Turns out she had a super hard life. And I'm like, I kept getting that she was like married 3 times or she was the 3rd wife. And the more we checked in, she's like, Case, that was exactly it. She was married 3 times, but 2 times was to the same man. And she was basically like the 2nd wife. And so that's where you got the plural marriage. Yeah. And so it was kind of cool. Anyways, it made me want to learn more about my ancestors. Yeah. That I was like, Mom, I think she is one of your guides. Yeah. Like, I think she's really one of your guides. You might want to study more about her, even though she wasn't like a close relative. She's with you.
And I feel like ancestors are, especially if you have lost a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad, but even like grandparents, like some grandmothers help raise the kids or those relatives that are really close. They are your ancestors. They are your guardians. They are your guides. They will lead you through this journey in life. They will help you as much as they can. And so listen. And it's funny because everybody's like, everyone is always like, oh, can you tap in? And I'm like, yes, but you can too. Yeah. Like this is not just me. You can too. You can listen, but I think people just doubt themselves so much that they forget that they also have the gift.
Yeah. All of you have that ability and gift and power. It's like that whole expression of step into your power. It might sound cliche, but it really is this amazing divine power that I think all of us have been given. And we put up these blocks and trauma and different things can play into what puts like this, almost like this fog over it. You can have to peel back those layers to open it up, to channel it.
So I think inviting your spirit guides in to help you and lead you is a great thing. I was just telling Casey, we were at the store and we were looking for a seasoning for our beverages today. And I was like, I like to close my eyes and just feel where the seasoning is. Like let yourself draw to it. Just know, like just see what comes in. And it's the same way with everything in life. Like I talk to my spirit guides a lot. Like I know their names. I talk to them. And the ancestor side and my not ancestor side, just my spirit guide. So funny story, I had Everly, my 10-year-old, had lost her beats, the big, huge headphones.
Oh, yeah.
She had lost her beats. She could not find them. So her headphones, she could not find them for probably a month and a half, 6 weeks maybe, like a long time.
Yeah.
She finally came to me and she goes, can you just ask your spirit guides where they are? And instantly I got a download and I heard purple tote. And I said, go upstairs in your room and look inside the purple tote. She has 4 totes in her room. One of them is black, one of them is purple, and then the other one have designs. She goes upstairs, she looks in her purple tote, and lo and behold, there are her beats.
Oh my
she
gosh.
has them on. She's got this big smile on her face. She walks downstairs and she says, I will never doubt your spirit guides ever again.
She's like, can you thank your guides for me?
Yeah. And it's like that all the time. I lost my keys the other day and all of a sudden I got this download. I asked my spirit guides and I like get this download under your bed. And I go upstairs and lo and behold,
There
my
they
keys, I don't know how they got under there, but they were under my bed.
Oh, I love that.
So your spirit guides are, I would say in the last like year, I've learned that like this gift isn't just meant for other people, Casey. You can use it for you too.
Yes.
And you can use it for your own benefit, listeners.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I think another great way to kind of open yourself up for this is you can do like some visualizations.
Yes.
Kind of see what would a day look like, your dream day. You've got like this amazing job and everything's going right in your life. What does that day look like? Do a visualization of that. Maybe get out a journal, write it out, and then just sit with that for a minute and what comes to you. What do you know that the next steps are going to be to get you to that day, to that dream job, to that dream life? Like sit with that visual. Yeah. Manifest it. Yeah, for sure. I think that's
Or have you ever sat at the beginning of the day and kind of felt how your day was going to go?
I love
what's
that.
going to happen today? Just
to
see
kind
what
of
comes
play
in.
out your day.
And
yeah.
I like to think of it like sand in your hands. The more you grasp it, the more it slips through your fingertips. But if you just kind of open, it shouldn't be strained. It shouldn't be hard. Just see what comes in. First thoughts and impressions. And I think our ego gets in the way. So you can't care if you're right or you're wrong. It's just an experiment. Like, what do I think is going to happen today? Journal it. Write a few things and see what comes in.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great way to do that. Another one you could do is called automatic writing. So you can sit down, you can ask your higher self a question, and then just grab a piece of paper, pen and pencil, like old school writing. Don't get on your phone and type it out in your notes or whatever. Just grab a pencil. I feel like that connection to where you're holding it with your hand and coming through the mind, body, spirit connection and just write it out. Whatever comes. It could be the most craziest thing. It might seem like it. Just keep writing and writing and then maybe see what happens, even like the next day. So you ask that question and go back to your automatic writing.
So Tyler Henry, Hollywood medium, is a big one who uses automatic writing. He'll have a pen. He'll kind of like
he
scribble
does.
a little bit. And I started doing that when I do readings. And what I've realized it does is when you're scribbling with one hand, that's occupying your left brain, your prefrontal cortex, your logic and reasoning. So your right brain. So your other side of your brain can come in. That more intuitive side can come in.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when you occupy one side of your brain, the other side can come in. And so I like it a lot. I like to, if I'm nervous or if I'm not going to get anything, or if I'm in my head a little bit that day, or if I'm going through a lot, then it gives me a method or a source to get out of my own way.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, play around with that, you guys. Kind of see what works for you, how you feel.
I also feel like meditation is a huge one. So when we're working the crown chakra, which we said is the claircognizant, the crown chakra is your sense of knowing that you are not just the only person here on earth and you're selfish and you're like stuck in your muddy life. That knowing that like, hey, there's a bigger picture here. I am one drop in an ocean of energy, and opening to the like cosmic energy of the world and whatever you want to call it. We've talked about God source energy. We've talked about like enlightened source, like just whatever
universe,
you want to call
all
it.
that.
Yeah. And just meditating. I love the saying, praying is talking to God. Meditating is talking with God. So quieting your mind enough so you can hear what the universe is telling you or what God is trying to tell you. And I think part of this is I meditate every single morning for an hour or two. And I have a lot of kids and I have a busy life.
Yeah, that's a long time. That's dedication.
You know what? I feel not myself when I don't. And it's just quiet with my own mind. But not one of my teachers, all of my teachers, James Von Prague, John Holland, all of the big names, they will all tell you, if you want to get really good at being psychic, intuitive, medium, spend time with source energy, meditate. Religious people call it prayer. It's the exact same thing. You are being grateful, offering up your spiritual energy, saying, I am but a vessel in this worldly, earthly experience. How can I serve others? How can I be of service and love and spread love everywhere? And just open. Don't think about your trauma. Don't think about your life. Don't think about what you got to do that day. Just open. Just see what comes in. And I feel like that really has helped me more than anything be able to grow my intuitive skills.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think meditation really helped me shift into feeling more confident with my abilities and to receive downloads faster. Yeah. When I am more consistent with meditating, I can feel a difference. And like bonus, it helps you to feel happier. It helps you to feel less anxious. If you are naturally an anxious person or you're dealing with a lot of stuff in your life, definitely use that tool. I mean, it's incredible.
I think meditation gets a bad name because everybody is like, I can't stop thinking. And that's not the point of meditation. You're not supposed to stop thinking. Your mind will literally never stop. As a human being, that's normal. But it's disassociating from your thoughts, looking them from almost like a non-responsive, non-reactive, third-party point of view. I am zooming out of my life and I am seeing my thoughts pass by. So I'm having a thought and now it's floating away. And here's another thought and there it goes. And when you're like, oh crap, I suck at this, I'm not very good at meditating, then you're letting ego get in the way and you just release it. And you're like, oh, there's another thought and I'm going to let that go.
Yeah, you can keep reminding yourself, I am not my thoughts. I am not my body. I am a soul having a human experience. And I feel like what helped me a lot when I first started meditating years ago was that I would do guided meditations. So you can go on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, they're everywhere. There's apps for it. There's free guided meditations you can do on YouTube. And that's kind of where I started. I started with the violet flame meditation. But you can really just look it up and kind of see what you're drawn to.
Yeah. And even just like if you have a minute or two of silence a day. And I like to say, don't set an alarm because if you go over that, let's say you say 5 minutes and you set a 5-minute timer, when that 5 minutes is up, it's going to go off and then you're going to be like, okay, I'm done. Instead, set like a time watch and hit start. And that way you can meditate. And then before you know it, you're going to be at 6 minutes. You're going to open your eye and look at it and be like, oh, I went over 5 minutes and you won't even know.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that for sure. So some other things you can do, to kind of help open up that crown chakra. Some of the physical parts with the crown chakra would be like your cognitive ability. If you're feeling any brain fog, feeling kind of sluggish, like your thoughts are just kind of all over the place. Some herbs that I love, one of my favorites is holy basil. It's known as the queen of herbs or the king of herbs. And it's an adaptogen. It really helps you calm your anxiety. It's great it's a sacred plant. It helps to purify the mind, body, spirit.
So if somebody goes out and buys holy basil, are there any downsides to that? Will it hurt anybody at all?
Yeah, I don't know of any like contraindications, any reactions it could have with any.
But maybe check with your doctor.
But check with your doctor. We are not doctors. We will put that disclaimer.
Yeah.
Definitely check in, make sure. That one overall though is a really gentle herb. It's a really beautiful herb. So read about it. I kind of love that with different plants and aromatherapy. Read about it and kind of see what you're drawn to. I've been drawn to holy basil for years. It's also known as Tulsi. And so I've been drawn to that for a long time. And so different ones are going to resonate with your body, your DNA, your spirit. Yeah. So it might not be for everyone. Kind of check in and see what feels good for you. You can use it as a tea. You can take it in a supplement form. Okay. So yeah, kind of look that up. There's a bunch you could look into.
Like any clear stones. So quartz. Selenite. Any of those clear colored stones are great for opening the claircognizant channel, the crown chakra channel. Foods generally, instead of eating foods, fasting. That's why Jesus fasted, Reiki masters fasted in order to get information. It's because our bodies are so dense and heavy that fasting kind of opens up those channels that it makes us a little bit lighter and our bodies less dense and heavy. So we are more intuitive. So fast. But again, take your doctor's advice. Don't start any medications or any things.
Yeah, double check on that. No, I love that though. Those are great suggestions for sure.
And then just being mindful of what comes in that doesn't normally come in. Any thoughts or opinions or feelings that like you don't generally get, really pay attention to those, because like we said, your mind loops. It's on rerun. It's the same thought process over and over and over again. So if you get a random thought and there's no emotion associated with it, so no fear-based, like no, like, oh my gosh, what if? And then you get this thought and you're like, oh my gosh, that's claircognizant. I just know something bad's going to happen. But that's emotion attached. So don't let fear run or dictate your life. There's a big caveat on listening to your claircognizant, because it is never fear-based. It is a sense of knowing without any emotion attached. And then the emotion can come secondary. Like I'm feeling, like you think, oh, grandma. And then you're like, oh yeah, I feel like I should call grandma. Like that's different than letting the fear run the show.
Yeah, I agree. It almost feels like, for lack of a better word, kind of confident, just sure. Like you're like, okay, no, I know this, like I'm not feeling anxious. I feel comfortable. I feel grounded in it. I feel confident in this, that, this download.
Yeah, it
that
really
came through.
is. And I think that's how all of my intuitive downloads come, is I get a knowingness. I don't know how I know. Even in telepathy, even with all the other clairs, I just know. And then I use my other clairs to discern, to figure out, to sort. But my knowingness is my first. It drops in and I like say it. And it really is like an easy come in. If I'm straining, if I'm thinking, then it's almost always wrong. Like it's your mind. So how to tell between what is my mind and what is in reality. And if it is your mind, it is strained. Like you think of one thing and it leads you to another, and it leads you to another, and it leads you to another. And that's called anxiety or worrying or rumination. But instead, claircognizant really is just, I'm thinking about something and all of a sudden I get this sudden download or the sudden thought or the sudden knowingness. I don't know how I know. I just know.
Yeah. And then sometimes it can almost feel like deja vu. You're like,
Yes.
oh, I feel like, did I have a dream about this? It's like I've done this before,
And it could be claircognizant can come in, and then 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 2 years later, you're like, I knew that relationship wasn't going to work. I don't know how I knew. I knew. So it can come in way in advance, and it's not necessary to always act on it. It's just a knowingness. If you can help somebody or heal somebody or offer them comfort or joy or peace, then I love that. But if you're unsure, then wait and just sit with it. And we should talk about discerning when to speak up and when not to, when to hold it dear, and when it's your time to talk. And that's really, what are the boundaries and ethical principles and guidelines to the psychic medium side?
Yeah, that's a big one. It is hard. It's hard to find that balance, to know when you should say this or when they're not ready. I think that comes back to your intuition. Like, what do you feel? Am I feeling like they're not ready for this, or they are open and man, their relative is really coming through and really feels like they're open and I should tell them?
Yeah.
It's a hard like balance to figure out.
Yeah.
And it kind of just I don't know, for me, it takes time, and I'm still learning when to say, when to not to say.
And also tact. Not just time, not just discernment, but tact. How can I say this lovingly? And am I saying it for their benefit?
Yeah.
Not just to say, I know something about you.
Is this going to help or hinder?
Right. Yeah. And the C word is like a bad word, right? So like the Cancer word, if you know or feel or see or get a download, oh my gosh, you're sick. I mean, you never have permission to go say that to someone.
No, you don't. That's such a good, okay. So I had this happen a couple of weeks ago with my mother. So if it was another client, I would never have done this, but it was my mom, and I was doing Reiki on her, and we just started. The second I went over her crown, I put my hand on top of her head, and I literally felt the word cancer spelled out on my hand. And I was like, oh, okay. She has cancer, some type of skin cancer on her scalp. And
did you have any emotion attached with that, or was it just annoying?
No, it was just annoying. Like I wasn't even feeling anything.
Which is crazy because that's your mom.
Yeah.
So that would be scary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, but because it was just a knowingness, you were just like, oh.
Oh yeah. Cause I didn't think of that. Now that you say that, yeah, I didn't. it was just okay. And I did it so matter of fact, which I'm sure surprised her when we got done. And again, I wouldn't have said it to a client. I would have just said, hey, you might want to contact your dermatologist. Something came up on your, on your scalp. But I was like, Mom, you have skin cancer on your head. Like I'm so sure of it.
I've been like that with my family.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. That I was like, I'm just going to be direct. Here's what came up. You 100% do. And she said, well, yeah, actually, Casey, I have an appointment for February to get this looked at. And I said, no, you have to call today. Like you cannot wait till February. She's like, no, Case, they're booked out. I've tried other doctors. I said, no, find another dermatologist. I have a feeling that if you contact them again or contact a couple more, they're going to get you in this week or next week. And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, Mom, you have to do this. She's like, okay, fine. So she called me an hour later and she's like, Casey, I got in somewhere else. They're getting me in next week. So they did the biopsy and she has 2 different forms of skin cancer. I'm so grateful it's not melanoma. And so they're going to do a type of surgery. And it turns out that it was 2 different spots and she thought it was one, but it's 2 different spots on the crown, literally the crown of her head. So that was kind of wild that's right where I went into. And then I felt like the claircognizance came in. It was just a knowing. And I'm grateful that the outcome is going to be okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And like that gives me the chills. Like how incredible is it that you listen to your intuition and it is so matter of fact.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Like if you would have felt it, you would have doubted and you would have been scared and you would have been like, no, it's just 100%. Scary and I'm in my head.
Yes.
And that's when you ruminate, when you're thinking, oh my gosh, this and this and this and this and this, then yes, you're just going through anxiety. That is not intuition. That is anxiety. That is rumination. But when you feel something and there is 0 emotion attached, that is a download. Now, this is not talking about clairsentient, which we will talk about next week. Clairsentient is clear feeling, and we'll talk about how to recognize your feelings, your gut feelings, and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. We'll lead into that more.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Case.
How you feeling? Feel good about?
Do we have an Ask the Psychics?
Yes, we do actually. Let me pull this up. So we have one here from one of our followers. She signed it as L. She said, hi, I would like to talk to you about my experience I had. This is an experience with hearing. And I heard you don't belong here. Probably went on for a week and a half. Usually woke me up from sleep.
Okay, so she was sleeping and she got woken up with voice.
You don't belong here. Yeah.
You don't belong here.
Yeah. I also have had music turn on twice now with no one using the device. A lamp we never use turned on in the middle of the night. Finding feathers everywhere. And recently seeing a car crash where I can actually feel and hear the sound of someone's head hitting a side window. That one is on repeat recently. I'm not scared and have asked for more clarification, but nothing has come yet. Could you see if you girls could channel anything?
Okay, thanks. I'm getting a lot right now.
Yeah, what do you get from that?
Okay, so first of all, I feel like somebody's spirit is trying to talk to her. I feel like they're trying to say a lot of things. I think the feathers, they're sending her sign symbols. The you don't belong here is very actually common. I think a lot of people hear things and it really is dependent upon where they are in life, because people tend to look at the physical. You don't belong here, meaning in this relationship, meaning in this house, meaning in this state, meaning in this job. So I would look at all areas of your life and see where you feel like you don't belong and intuitively check in and see if all of those things feel aligned. Yeah. But more than that, it could be energetic. So if energetically you are down, depressed, not in a good place, and your spirit guides are guiding you and telling you, you don't belong in this down place. Like, follow me. Here are the feathers. Here, I'm sending you love. I'm sending you light. I'm trying to guide you to the place. I feel like they're turning on your lights. I feel like you have spiritual energy around you. And I actually feel like it could be ancestor energy or spirit guide energy trying to get your attention to turning on music, turning on lights, giving you feathers. I feel like they're trying to get your attention really hard. And I would ask, one, are you intuitive and opening up to this stuff so you're more able to see it now, whereas before you weren't? And so they are trying to get your attention. And two, are there any major life shifts or changes that you should be making or that you need to make either physically or energetically?
Yeah, because it could even be a relationship, you don't belong here. Like you said, in this job, in this space, in this town, in this city. It really could mean so many things. It
But
doesn't.
relationship doesn't mean spouse relationship. It could be like with a specific friend.
It could be with a coworker
or a friend or a sister or right. Like it's so mysterious that I would say you really need to, when you wake up and you hear that, wake up and see what you just did that the day before, that night, right? Like, did you drink and you're not supposed to be drinking? Did you have a conversation with your friend that got really heated and you weren't supposed to? Were you fantasizing about another man and the spirit is like, no, you don't belong in that space. Like, get out of that lustful space. Like, where is it that you are being guided? And really, I think that's something only you can answer because it is very specific for you.
Yeah. And I think this person is just barely starting to tap into their abilities. The fact that she is noticing more signs, symbols with the feathers, that, what did she say? She could see and feel and hear the person's head hitting the side window in the car accident.
So the crazy thing about this is I've done a reading before and we've talked a little bit about me being a physical medium. So a lot of times I'll feel sensations. One of the hardest sensations to feel are car accidents because it is so jarring. And when I felt this particular one, I flipped over and over and over. So I felt like I was like spinning, and then I felt my face on the windshield. And then I felt so nauseous. I actually had to like stop the reading and like ground myself because I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
And I found out that the person I was channeling, the woman I was channeling, had gotten in a car accident and she had died because she had choked on her vomit. And so I had like felt all of that and it was so visceral and so real that like I had to stop. So what I would say is if you are having a premonition, you will know by, is it just a noticing it or is there emotion attached? Is this like a movie that is haunting you and you are fearful of a car accident? Or if there is no emotion attached, then maybe it is a premonition of a car accident coming.
Yeah.
But also that's hard because like in my experience, I don't like to say like, if you lean into it and you find out if it's your car accident or somebody else's car accident, it's kind of tricky because I don't believe you should tell them. So don't let it scare you. Take the information, notice it, feel it. You don't know that in 2 weeks, you're not about ready to roll up on a car accident and you just were feeling that premonition of the car accident of the stranger you're about ready to meet.
It could just be, hey, get ready. Cause yeah, you're going to pull up on a car accident and they're going to need your help. Like my family jokes that I'm like this running paramedic. If there's any car accident, for some reason, I'm like the first one on the scene. I get there before the cops or I see it happen or right after it happens. I will pull over no matter where I am. I have pulled my kids into random neighborhoods,
I have too.
Side of the road. Yep. Yeah. And I will be the first one right up to the window. I'm talking to them. I get their name. I'm calming them down. We're calling their loved one. Another one, a girl. She was in a
breathing.
car.
I'm always like,
yes.
Let's take a deep breath.
Let's take a deep breath.
Let's inhale into your nose.
Totally.
Exhale. Let's stop the shakiness. You're okay.
Yes. You're
Did
just, your nervous system is freaking out. Yeah.
Are you hurt right now or are you just a little scared? Like if you're hurt, tell me where.
Yeah. I've done that so many times where I even like pried the door open to get into them because they couldn't open the door and they were like having a panic attack. They were okay. Yeah. But it shook them. So it could even just be like, hey, get ready. If you see an accident, they need you. Maybe
do you think
pull
we
over.
Can channel for her for a minute? Like,
Yeah. We could try that.
Feeling her energy. If she sees and feels this car accident, I wonder if she has a loved one that has passed from a car accident and she's tapping into that energy. Or if she has a friend, if she is opening and one of her closest friends has somebody that she loves dearly and they passed in a car accident, I wonder if she is channeling and doesn't realize she's channeling.
She's tapping into that maybe.
Yeah. And maybe that loved one is trying to get through saying, hey, I got in a car accident. You talk to this person every day. Can you tell them that I'm here and I'm with them? And she just isn't putting two and two together. Like it's so hard. It's a hit and run. Yeah. Literally. Like you get a hit of something, a car accident. You don't know where it goes. You don't know what it is. You don't know how to place it. It just kind of terrifies you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
TBD. To be determined.
Yeah.
All right, Case. I think that wraps up this one.
Yeah. Good.
Claircognizant is a good one. I feel like it's one of my strongest ones. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like it's a really strong one for me too. And it's a hard one to describe.
It is hard
put to
because you
words.
have to have confidence in it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a knowingness and trust your knowingness, trust your abilities. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So trust yourself, guys.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. We will see you next week. I'm Kalina Converse.
And I'm Casey Carlson.
And this is
Medium Mixology. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.